Well, I did get interest from the physics department chair. I mean, he actually said this is
all right. Welcome to the May meeting of the Colorado Springs Astronomical Society. My name is Matt Russell. I am the current president. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing some nifty things. First off, we're going to have our speaker, Bruce Bookout, is going to be talking about, would you say, summer vacation in archaeoastronomy? Potential vacations in archaeoastronomy. We're then going to do some observing reports. I know some folks have some observing reports they want to give. We'll take about a 10-minute break, somewhere around there. After that, we're going to do Dave Warner's What's Up. The What's Up is going to be actually 2 months today because we do not have a meeting in June because of the Rocky Mountain Star Stare. That's coming up. That's coming up. It is. And then we're going to get into some of the committee reports and talk about outreach, and then we're going to close shop here around 8:30ish or so, or if not a little bit before. So before we really get going, I'd like to introduce our board and other executive committee members. Jim Urim, Vice President, right over there. Our treasurer is Jill Furman, right here. Our secretary is Fred Goodman. Dave Warner, our member at large. Is George here? George is not here, okay. Trustees, we have one out of the 2 trustees that we have. I think Floyd Glick is somewhere in the room, right in the back. Our webmaster, Stephen Pligo. Our librarian, Vicky, is right there. One thing, Fred, where's the attendance sheet? We have an attendance sheet in the back of the room. Please make sure that you fill that out before you leave today. And there also should be some visitor cards. If you would, please take a minute to fill those out as well, so that we can reach out to you and see how we can get you engaged in our club. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to thank the Space Foundation for allowing us to use this facility in Woodbury. And what I'd also like to know is, do we have any new guests here today? All right, so what I'd like you to do, if you would, is stand up, say your name, why you're here, and then I need a number from 1 to 100. Yes.
I want Jeff.
The reason why I asked that is I went to the mailbox today, and we get all sorts of goodies in the mailbox. And typically, what I'll do is I'll give some of that stuff away that we don't eat ourselves. So, you don't want. I don't want
My name is Gene Dick. I just moved here last November from West Virginia. Former member of the Richmond Astronomical Society. Forward to joining here and getting active.
Excellent. Excuse me? 97.
Is that it?
You don't want to talk?
You'd be young. All right, next.
So my name is Daniel Gagan, and I'm here with my wife, Rhonda Gagan, and we are members of the
Southern Colorado Astronomical Society. But I work up here in the Springs, so I check it out.
And the number is 42.
42.
Good number.
Who's next? Yes.
My name's Will Pells. I've been here off and on since 1960. I've got a telescope and I don't know how to use it.
We can help with
Christmas
that.
4 years ago, and I'd like to get into astronomy. But my numbers 78.
78. Anybody else who's first timer here? Yes. Go for it.
I'm Joe. I am very much an amateur. I'm a musician by training, and I work in finance by necessity. But books of Carl Sagan and a couple of others I've been reading in earnest over the last 2 years, and had binoculars for about the same 2 years, just got a telescope and started to be a part.
I didn't know. I need a number from 1 to 100.
Voice and piano.
What is your number between 1 and 100?
30.
All right.
Anybody else? All right. Well, what I have is these are 2018 calendars, so they're kind of a little halfway through, but this is a really cool NASA calendar. Really awesome photographs in here. So my number that I picked was number 33. So Joe gets one, and then I think the folks from Pueblo, you guys get one. So could come on up and grab these.
No, if you're looking at January, we don't trust you.
Here, take this one too. Thank you very much. Okay. Other items that I have here that you guys can look at the break, which is going to be about 10 minutes long. We have a whole bunch of little brochures or little pamphlets you can take for Mile High Astronomy, telescopes and binoculars. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a new business in Denver. If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Well, feel free to take one of those.
Internet only.
Right. I have a book here that we received at our mailbox, Gauging the Solar System.
You want to trade?
If anybody wants that, feel free to take that. I have information on the Nebraska Star Party, which is in August, if anybody was thinking about wanting to do that Star Party. And then we also got another notification here for a star party, if I'm not mistaken, the Green Bank Star Quest, which is in West Virginia. Bit of the trip, road trip, but anyways, if anybody wants any of this information, I'll just leave it up here on the table. Before we get into our featured presentation this evening, I'd like Bruce Lookout to come forward.
They found out about me.
Cops will be here in 10 minutes. What there are is there's a lot of observing awards from the Astronomical League, and I just got a
Mean these?
No, the ones you're in.
yes.
Oh, what's I heard?
So let me just read this quick letter to you. It says, "Dear Bruce, congratulations on completing the requirements for the Herschel 400 observing program. On behalf of the Astronomical League, it is my pleasure to send you your certificate in pin. Display them proudly. This is a significant accomplishment. The effort you've put into this observing program should be a great help to you as you move onward to additional celestial wonders." Ooh, really?
Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
They're just counting your shirt.
Yeah, it wasn't counting my shirt. I want to thank a lot of the folks who helped me with this, Bob and Al, and many of the other folks who at various times helped me work through some of these observations. This is disciplined. You go out, you've got to observe. I'll tell you what, it is worth it. Because you'll find some things, yeah, wow, that's not exciting. Okay, that's not exciting. Whoa, I gotta add that to my personal list. It's a great way of discovering the things you don't know. And that's why I keep doing these, is because I keep adding to that list of, wow, that's fantastic. And this is number 10. So most people, if you know the Astronomical League, you know what that means. So I'm looking forward to that next stage as we go through. But please, if you got any questions, I can answer a lot of them about how these programs are done and what you need to do. They take some discipline. I started these 2008, about 10 years ago. I started these kind of programs. Just be patient with yourself. So, thank you.
So what we're gonna do is go ahead and get right into Bruce's presentation.
He's so demanding as president.
We're not applauding again.
Oh, okay.
And we're good?
Camera.
Keep trying. There you go.
That's as wide as it probably gets.
Yep.
Oh, that one down there then.
No, that shrinks it.
Oh, that shrinks it. Okay, we'll have to deal with this as we go. Yeah, tonight's talk was actually an inspiration for some ideas that, gee whiz, we're getting into the holidays. Well, what I call holidays, because it's when I can actually take a break. As a teacher, I teach at Pikes Peak Community College. Several years ago, my chairman, Liz over there, had the idea that we should expand our catalog from planetary geology, planetary astronomy, and stellar astronomy to include archaeoastronomy. So we've been running off from that, and I've been teaching and talking about this for many years. And Jim had an idea about, all these different places which you could do this as a vacation for the summer. And honestly, there are a lot of spots where you could plan out a summer vacation for a week or two and hit quite a few of them. Two of these locations, I would tell you, go there and camp for the week to see everything that's there. But the idea is, what do you get to see and what are you going to get to experience with that? For those people who are not familiar with it, archaeoastronomy is the study of ancient cultures and how they viewed the heavens, how they saw the universe, how they put together the cosmos, their cosmology, their belief system, very often coupled with their religious practices, but that's okay because that's how they related to the entire universe and explaining all the weird things that are going on in the sky. In our regional area, we have multiple locations: Chaco Canyon, Chimney Rock, Crack Cave, Yellow Jacket, Mesa Verde, Hovenweek, and the Bighorn Medicine Wheel. We'll tackle these according to where they are. And of course, isn't this a wonderful chart where I show you a picture of one and I give you a list and you're going, but where are they? Yeah, they're a little bit of everywhere. And you find us on this picture. Yeah, we're kind of central around this set, and then you've got one rogue sitting way up there on the north end of Wyoming. Some of these sites I have not been to personally yet. They are on my bucket list. I have limitations. It's called a real day job that goes all the time. But they're a lot of fun to go through. Some of these you go, that's it? Well, yeah, it's a simple location. And many of these cultures didn't need something like, gee whiz, I need to measure the variable star brightness changes. What did they care about? These cultures care about when the seasons change. So a lot of their observations is when it's the equinox, when it's the solstice, where are these star patterns, those kind of things to help them gauge when and where they are in the night times during the entire year. And so it helped them understand those kind of things. So let's start with a basic one, Crack Cave. Crack Cave sits way off in the grasslands on the very edge of Colorado. This is a canyon area through this area, and I don't actually have a picture of actual Crack Cave because the Park Service won't post it. You can go visit, but I can't find an actual picture of the cave. They try to they limit the cave access because, well, there's this thing called tourism. And it's oh, wow, look, I want a souvenir. And the next guy comes in, I want a souvenir. Next guy comes in, I want a souvenir. You know how many souvenirs will last if everyone took every stone out of Stonehenge? None. We'll see an example of that a little bit later where someone has ravaged the site since the 1700s and destroyed it. But what's really cool is this cave has markings on the inside that when the sun is at the equinox points, it illuminates these particular cave patterns. We're going to see that's a commonality among many cultures. It's a matter of walk in, no, it's not today. It's not today. Well, one day where the sun is illuminating that pattern, hey, that's the date on the calendar. Because honestly, when you're counting time, it depends on your gauge of how accurately you want to count time. Are you obsessed about seconds and minutes? Yeah, welcome to the modern age because we have cell phones and we worry about the minutes. But ancient cultures, the minutes were not that relevant. Even the hours were not that relevant. It's like, okay, is it noon? Is it dusk? That's the importance of time. So keep that in mind as you look at some of these cultures. Move over to Chimney Rock. Chimney Rock is a really, really pretty location, especially in the southern part of Colorado, where they physically built what they call a great house. This is a Puebloan culture. They built in a great house at a particular location, where as the moon is rising during its major standstill, that's a significant time. Because it only will do that once every 18.6 years, a Saros cycle. And this is important in the aspect of it allows them to find out, ideally into the eclipse cycle, when to expect the next set of eclipses. If you've had a lunar standstill, you're halfway to the point of getting back to an eclipse season occurring as it goes through. These two stones, along with the location, the view that you're looking at from these pictures, is what they call a Great House. Great House Pueblo is its particular name. But you can see the lunar standstill, solstices, and equinox markers around there. Those markers are typically the sun, while the standstill is that one. Does everyone understand what a lunar standstill is?
No.
Well, it's a great opportunity to go, hey, Bruce, what's a lunar standstill?
Hey, Bruce, what's a lunar standstill?
Very good. I like this. Well, unlike the sun, which goes around us, oh, whoops, sorry, wrong cultural thinking there. I got a shift from the ancients to modern. As we go around the sun appears only to move in one plane across the sky. And a lot of cultures at first were like, well, the moon does the same thing. Well, it turns out the moon is tilted by about 6 degrees in its orbit. And because of that, if you see where the sun sets on the horizon, the moon, if it's aligned with the sun, which are what are called the nodes of its orbit, it'll set in the same location. Otherwise, that 6 degrees causes it to set a little north or a little south of that point, depending on where the sun is in its orbit. So those are called standstills. If it is much further north or much further south than the sun's setting points, those are called the major standstills. If it sets inside of that area, those are called the minor lunar standstills. And they're a way of helping you gauge where you are in a Saros cycle. And a lot of people are like, well, how did the ancients know about this? Well, gee whiz, it hit there, it's going to be 18.6 years before it hits again, and what happens in between? Eclipses. So they can start seeing these patterns by generations and keep tracking it. A lot of people think that knowledge is based off of, well, that's modern technology. There are cultures going back 5,000 years ago that understood Saros cycles and the details of how that all functioned, including the fact that, yeah, it was the Earth going around the sun, not the other way around. So this one little piece, the lunar standstills, was a huge key to unlocking how the universe was actually working. And here, you've got a Puebloan culture using natural land formations to get that all figured out. How fascinating is that? Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket is on the far side of Colorado. It is a large set of upright stones that were set up. Some of them are actually been demolished. Gee whiz, we had invaders in the local country that are set up in an east-west alignment. Now, why would that be good for setting up an east-west alignment? You can find out what the equinox is, because guess where the sun rises on an equinox, whether it's autumnal or vernal? Due east-west. So these help them set up an alignment to see exactly where that's going to go. Yellow Jacket's unique because a lot of the houses that the Puebloans lived in are called kivas. Most kivas, very similar to the Navajo hogans, open to the eastward and allow sunlight in at a particular chance. But of all the locations around Colorado and New Mexico and so forth for the Puebloan culture, Yellow Jacket has a huge number of these kivas. No one knows why. It's a huge mystery of why was there such a high concentration of these kivas in there. The kivas are very key to Puebloan culture in terms of their spirituality and their religious practices, but it'd be interesting to see that. I really want to tap into a couple anthropologists to unlock some of those pieces. Keep in mind, as I talk about these cultures, I am absolutely biased in my viewpoint because all I see is an astronomer's eyes. I don't have the advantage of seeing things from an anthropologist's viewpoint. Hovenweep, very, very similar. These were built up large castles, two large, big, open areas like this, where particular windows are set in there, where the rays will protrude down into what would be called a kiva, but it's an open kiva. And these are set up so that certain windows allow light in at certain times of the year. So, hey, light's coming in from that one. That's what the time of year it is. Hey, light's coming in from this one. It's the equinox and things along those lines. So Hovenweep is good about that. Yes.
Like this or Crack Cave or any of these sites old enough that there is precession, the wall pool has shown?
Yes.
They lined up differently? Okay.
Yes. Many of them are slightly off because of precession. But that's, in fact, one of the ways that they go, wait, that doesn't seem to be lining up to what we know. And they use that along with other factors to date the site. In fact, that's one of the great things, even you go back in archaeoastronomy, people were trying to figure out when the pyramids of Egypt were built. Well, considering that they are pointed at the star Thubain as the North Star, that's a clue they were built a long time ago, because we're no longer pointed at Thubain, which is part of the fun stuff doing archaeoastronomy. But you see a very, very pretty area. Again, far, far western edge of Colorado. Huh. Oh, there we go. Mesa Verde. Everyone knows and has heard of Mesa Verde, I hope, if you live in Colorado long enough. Beautiful national park. Many large structures built into there. Tons and tons of kivas. But many of the houses that are built into the cliff dwellings in that area have alignments for the cardinal direction. So within the house, you can go, oh, look, it's spring. But there's one particular area called the Sun Temple that they really are getting the feel like this was truly an observatory for their chief shaman. They would go out there and they had alignments for solstices, for equinox, and for these lunar standstills as they function. Down at the bottom of the canyon, down from where the Sun Temple is, there's a secondary Sun Temple that only has light during the time of the winter solstice. Now, for most people, it's like, okay, it's winter solstice. Why is that a big deal? Well, if you're a culture and you're starved out for food and winter keeps coming and winter keeps coming, that first day when you go, it's the winter solstice, what's going to be happening? The sun's going to start climbing and you know you're moving back towards spring. So it's that moment of, okay, winter is now going to start dissipating in a certain amount of time. But that first rays during winter solstice is very important for many cultures. It keys the whole factor of change and how we can move forward for stuff. Chaco culture, National Historical Park. This is one of those sites, stay a week and you'll regret not spending enough time there. There's so much going on here. Between the large houses, which have tons of kivas in them, there are cardinal orientations all over the place for east-west alignments, meridian alignments, where you can actually see where things are crossing easily in the sky, which helps you figure out east-west and north-south. You've also got alignments between, hey, we're going to point out not only to east-west, but here's another alignment so you can get to the next Puebloan city. And you can get to the next one. There is an interconnective highway that has been identified that covers several thousand square miles around Chaco culture, or Chaco Canyon as it's sometimes referred to. Many of the aspects in here, here's a nice little, geological map of it, the main road in and out. If you drive here, keep in mind that it's about 20 miles dirt road to get in from any direction you pick. That's a step. Some people are like, well, it's a national park. Why isn't it paved? Because they don't want to encourage everybody and their mother going through here. But once you're there, it's wonderful. Summertime? Yes. It's New Mexico. Hot is not a big enough word to describe how it is there, but it's beautiful. No, of all the national parks, this is the only one that has a resident archaeoastronomer living there. Does that tell you something? Nicest gentleman in the world. This is also one of the first parks that got the designation as a dark sky park. Another interesting point to talk about with that. The Pueblo Bonito is one example of many different bonitos scattered through the area. East-west alignments, individual houses here have alignments and windows opening where light would come in from one side depending on the town. So you've got many calendars and observatories buried within each of the individual city structures. You've also got this butte sitting down just south of the main area as you drive in. This is called Fajita Butte, or Butt, if you want to be American about it. You'll notice the little piece sticking up here and this little notch. Right in there is this freaky phenomenon, known as the sun dagger. The sun dagger is actually internationally known because in terms of constructs, it's brilliant. And it basically says, I'm going to let shadow and light be artistically cast such that I can tell what time of year it is. And how it functions is there are 3 slabs which have been cut from the top, moved over here, and set down against the rock. There's a part where you can sit under, the slabs are out here. The facing rock has a carved sun glyph in it. That glyph, by the light coming through those slabs, frames it to make various patterns. As you can see from here, summer solstice, the 2 framing it for the winter solstice. This is the geometry for it. It is incredibly beautiful. This was discovered in the 70s. It has been studied, it has been mapped, there have been 3D graphics, the level of study is phenomenal. But here's a funny thing about geology of a butte. It's a mountain, it gets wet, it falls apart. This has been studied with enough equipment and people climbing up there that the entire area has settled down. The 3 rocks have slid.
Yeah.
National Park Service no longer allows anyone, even if you've got the scientific credentials, you get all the blessings, anyone, 0 access to it anymore, regretfully. But it is a beautiful construct. There's tons of films that show it, but it's incredible to see. As you can see, they've got different glyphs for the sun. The idea is a minor sun and a major sun. Some depictions are saying this is supposed to be the moon to the sun. Depends on your interpretation of the Puebloan culture as you go through. But it's brilliant in the fact that you can see the equinoxes, solstice, equinox, and the winter solstice is keyed out of there. This is how you also maintain power in your tribe. I will make the quest up the mountain to find out what information is being given to me by the Great Spirit. Looks at the wall, waits a couple of days until he actually confirms it, comes back down going, I have been communicated with the Great Spirit. Just looked at light on the wall. But it's brilliant. It's a great way of understanding and seeing what's happening with that. But the sun dagger is just a pure brilliant piece of way of doing stuff.
Roughly when was this active?
This was active approximately 5 to 900 CE. CE being Common Era. That's the terminology instead of AD that we use in archaeoastronomy and anthropology in the more modern times. Question?
Yeah, is there any talk of realigning those
No,
to fix it?
because you'd have to basically change the entire ground down out here, and it's continuing to do what a butte does, settle down and decay. Because if you look at this picture, that butte is continuing to decay. It'll always do that. So like anything else in nature, there's a time when it's working and functioning, and then everything will decay and fall apart. I mean, look at me, I'm decaying and falling apart pretty quick too. So it's a great area to see. Now, what else is in Chaco Canyon? Pictographs. These folks carved a lot of different things all the way through there. There are tons of depictions, depending on how you interpret their culture, of the sun, of the various gods that they looked at, which we'll see influences of Navajo and various other cultures around there. Turns to be a lot of cross-pollination when you talk about what pictographs are up there. But what's amazing is apparently one of their pictograph artists was paying attention very late in the evening on July 6, 1054 CE. Ooh, the whole people go, wait a minute, I know what that is. Yeah, we honestly think that this is a true depiction of the 1054 supernova, which occurred and was equally seen right next to a crescent moon on July 6 of 1054. Again, may depict. There's a couple other interpretations that they saw it and then later went back there and pictographed it back up there. But it's an interesting thing because guess what the height of the culture living in that area was? About 1054. So it's pretty good on that. As you can see, there are other pictographs of the sun all through that entire region. You could spend 2 to 3 days just walking various trails through through Chaco Canyon, just to see all the tons of pictographs. Here's the part that's a little weird. I went through there with my daughter one time. We're walking along. Oh man, these are beautiful. Oh man, these are beautiful. Wait, 1860? What? Yeah, modern graffiti. Well, compared to 1054 AD, there's modern graffiti that's been put in that area. So you have to understand that, especially in some of these areas where it's easy to pick that out, more modern people have done that. They really, really are trying to emphasize, please don't continue to add to the pictographs when you're in that area, because it only will destroy. And some groups have gone in there trying to destroy portions of these pictographs. They had a problem in the 20s and 30s where various groups were like, these are demonic, we must destroy them. And they actually defaced a lot of the history of what's going on in there.
Hey, Bruce?
Yes.
Can you go back? So are those bird nests from the swallows that are?
Yes. You got to remember, what you're looking at here is up here.
Right.
This is the cliff wall here, and this is the cliff roof up here. You walk up to it, and you go, oh, it's up there. Okay, I see that. Because that's what the guy did. Walked up here and took a picture straight up of that. But yeah, these are bird swallow nests there through that area. I'll tell you, this walk out to there is a long walk. It's like 5.5 kilometers. And if you do it at the wrong time of the year, you're not going to make it because they have flash flood through the area and they don't have all the trails properly bridged. So if there's a river going through that bridge area, you don't want to cross that little river. You will drown in the story. I don't care if the river is only this deep, hip deep. You will step into it and drown. They're that fast flowing and dangerous. Be cautious as you go through and pay attention to it. Bring lots of water. Lots of water. I need it. So, one of the last sites is way outside of Colorado, way up in the north end of Wyoming, known as the Bighorn Medicine Wheel. Some of you may have remembered several years ago, I did a full talk on the Bighorn Medicine Wheel and the nature of its construction and things like that. But this is a quick refresher. Way up here in the north end, in the Bighorn, it's kind of nice that it's called the Bighorn Medicine Wheel when it's in the Bighorn National Forest. Think it's a coincidence? Yes. Yeah, probably. Here's where it sits on the side of a ridge line. You can see this by the Google imagery. You'll see the circle, and this is what it looks like. Medicine wheels are actually incredibly common. There's about 37 of them in Colorado, whose locations are not shared. Why would we not share them? Hey, look, I want a piece of that. Hey, I want a piece of that. Hey. What you're seeing here is the devastation of about 50 to 60 years of, hey, I want a piece of that. This central cairn used to stand 3 meters high with rocks. The outer ones used to stand 1 meter high, full of rocks. So you can see the devastation that can occur from these things. Now, what makes this so special is it is hard to access. Again, we're using that, hey, I'm the shaman. I'll take the pain. Goes up there, stands, looks for alignments. The sophistication of this particular medicine wheel is astounding. It turns out most of the medicine wheels have the basics of it, but this is still one of the ones that has some level of completeness to it, that you get a sense of what's happening with it and overall. The Bighorn medicine wheel, if you stand over one cairn and look over another one, there are certain alignments that become apparent, such as a solstice sunset, a solstice sunrise. You also get the rising and setting of stars. Now, for most people, it's like, so, look, it's Rigel. It'll be there tomorrow night, and it'll be there, and you keep doing this, and eventually you go, hey, wait, why is not Rigel rising right now? Because, oh, gee whiz, it's sunlight. There are particular events where the star will rise, and the sun rises immediately after it. So you'll see the star, and all of a sudden the sun fades it out. That's called a heliacal rising. There's an equal event called the heliacal setting. A heliacal rising, say Rigel or Aldebaran or Sirius, can only occur in about a 3 to 4 day window before the way the sun moves, it's up all permanently for rising, or it's gone until it starts rising again on the opposite side of the sky. So that means that rather than having solstice markers of the extremes of winter, summer, and the halfway point of this, by looking at Fomalhaut, Sirius, Aldebaran, I can refine that a little more to, hey, you know what? It's March 15th. Don't be Brutus. Sorry, I had to go with that joke. But the idea is now I can refine what time of year it is for my calendar. Now, why would that be an advantage in northern Wyoming? When to get out of the area because winter is coming. Because dominantly you would be up there in this area and you can refine it down to, okay, folks, we're in the last week that we can continue hunting in this area before we have to migrate, which was very common for the cultures that utilize the Bighorn medicine wheel. This is a funny one because when the Americans came through here, well, most of the colonists and coming through the area, this was discovered and abandoned. We estimated it had been abandoned for about 120 years. And everyone was like, okay, who owns this? I don't know. All right. No culture, no Indian tribes made claim to it. And then somewhere in the 60s when they said, well, this is a National Historical Site, we should do something. Oh, wait, it's ours. Oh, wait, it's ours. All these cultures stood up and went, it's ours. Amazing how that happened. But it's usually associated with the Sioux, the Cherokee, the Cheyenne, many tribal cultures that migrated through the region. They felt that it was very important to them. And we've seen the significance. And again, you talked about procession. That's another method because the current heliacal risings don't align to the same kind of time periods. In fact, some of these are like so dead winter, it's like, no, that ain't going to work. But at the time this was utilized, about 500 to about 1,000 years ago, in that time period, this was used quite well. And there's tons of depictions of these things, of descriptions of the early settlers coming through the area, talking about these central cairns being much, much higher. And of course, the smoke patterns are thought to be possible trackers where you place a marker between the spokes and just keep moving it. Because guess how many spoke patterns and empty spaces there are?
165.
Between 29 and 30. What's between 29 and 30?
29.5.
29.5, yeah. What's so funny about 29.5?
He's just trying to get him.
Boom. Yeah, you get moonage. You get a moon. You get a moon. Oh, how amazing how that word works out for many things. Yeah, I get all the time. It's astounding. But there's a lot to these. There are more in this particular one. Some have less, some have more. You'll notice these cairns are displaced outside. Some are further from the outside circle. One is inside. Different cairns and different medicine wheels have different significances. So it's a huge study of looking at all these. But Domlink, you're not going to be able to easily access. This is the only one that's publicly easily accessed and safe to get to. You'll also find lots of people making weird claims and weird, freaky stuff going on with them that just isn't part of the real cultural parts of it. So there is an insight to a possible tour for the summer, moving between the grasslands up through the canyons and Verdes down to Chaco, and then make that long trip way up here. I'll tell you what, if you're going to go that far up into Wyoming, you've also get to go over to Yellowstone, and I would definitely go take a look at the Devil's Tower. Very, very pretty. And some of you may remember the legend told by the Lakota of the Devil's Tower. It's directly related to astronomy. The 7 sisters, the 7 daughters, or 7 girls that went out. They were attacked by a bear. They leaped upon the rock. They prayed to the Great Spirit, please let us get away from this bear. He raised the rock. The bear started climbing up the rock, tearing it apart. They said, raise it higher. He kept raising it higher. Bear kept clawing it, so why get all the claws? And eventually they're like, well, we can't escape. Raise them into the sky, according to the legend of the Lakota. So you find astronomy all the way through here, especially in the stories they tell of the different regions. So don't think you're going to one location. And remember, it's not getting to Chaco Canyon. It's not getting to here. It's the journey getting there and learning about the cultures that utilize that entire area. Any questions? Yes?
Bruce, on Hogan Wheat and Yellow Jacket, what's access like for those?
Not bad. They're off of major roads. Hoven Wheat is a national monument. Yellow Jacket was expanded as a national monument, but we're hearing some rumors the current administration wants to give it all back, which is very dangerous in that area because they're going to be losing a lot of the aspects of what's happening. But the access is very, very good for those areas on the far western edge.
So is there any limitations on what, when, or times of day, or is it pretty much open?
Pretty much open most of the time. I would do a little research, check out the national parks and the national monument. They'll have you a lot, especially Chaco. Has tons of material on that down there. And get a chance. They actually have an observatory in the canyon they operate. Yes?
One of the photographer friends that I have does a lot of glyph photography. And I've heard from him that Hoven Wheat in particular has a lot of dirt clay roads. And in the springtime, it can be impassable because of the mud.
Ooh, I did not know that.
So watch out for that.
Yeah, you might run into that if you go over to Painted Hand. Hoven Wheat itself, National Monument, has a great walkway around it that's very easy to walk and accessible. So it's really easy to see some of these formations and these structures.
Excellent. Yes.
Is there any chance that there'd be permission for a drone to fly near Sundagger?
Don't know. You'd have to check with the local folks down there. There are national parks have, depending on the park, strong restrictions or weak restrictions on drone flying. I didn't really pay attention to whatever it was when I was down there for that, but I was able to get somewhat close, get some of my own pictures and all that bit. But I was very disappointed that I couldn't climb up there. That was on my big agenda.
The Chimney Rock's not far from the highways.
No.
It has easy access, but it is a nice little climb to get up there.
Oh yeah.
And they do have interpretive tours to go up there.
Oh, excellent. Good. Yeah, Chimney's one of the ones I have to get to. I spent like 3 days in Mesa Verde hitting everything, and a lot.
want more time down at Chaco. I'd love to get to the Sun Dagger, but yeah, really great stuff.
Mason Bridge is pretty cool too. Takes a little while to get back there, but it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yes.
We're up at the Big Park Medicine Wheel, and that is a reasonable hike up a fairly high elevation hill. For us, it's not that bad, but it's definitely over 8,000 feet. And it just we ran some really bad weather in the middle of high summer on the top of that. So if you're looking at that one, it's a big wide trail, but it's definitely some putting on at least 500 birds, maybe 1,000 to get up there and hang out in the very cool weather.
I've heard that location, you definitely you cannot access it in winter at the Medicine Wheel. At summer, you really want to pay attention to the weather. It can be quite treacherous.
Yeah, it's quite exposed. You've got the lightning danger in the middle of the day and the afternoon thunderstorms.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Other questions?
Are we done?
Sorry, I'm boring you. Wow, I gave you 4 minutes back.
Yeah, you're awesome. I would like to present you with this matching bug for your new Herschel 400 pin.
Ooh.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
sir. Okay, we're going to move on to observing reports. Is there anybody that has any observing reports? Fred, do you have something?
Yep.
Thank you.
Real quick.
Or turn around.
Well, there's
Oh, yeah.
something he's got to show you. Do me a favor, could you show the list of the three so that I could show what the three programs were that I did them with? They're in the title. Probably in a moment. I just want to give a brief intro. I'll take care of that. Part of this is observing. I actually got out last month. I wasn't here because I had some personal things going on, and I got to see the beehive, and I got to see M13 and the sombrero. And I had taken on May 4th some images of the M81, which is something I always wanted to go back and improve on. But as Brian knows, because we go to his meetings with the astrophotography quite a bit, and I was trying out three free programs, and they're all stacking programs, and I used the same thing, the M81, and the nice thing about them being free is you can play around with them, no license and nothing to worry about. So let me give you a little bit of view here. Now, this one here, you can see her name on the top here. That program, Sequitur, has only been out a few years, but the guy that does it, he's Chinese, and he keeps on top of making new feature changes, and when people have questions or bugs, he's right on it. He's constantly improving it. They have light pollution filters, gradation filters, all sorts of stuff as it's stacking. So it minimizes a lot of problems with the post-processing. So this one here, oh, by the way, all three of these were done the same way with 7 3-minute exposures, no guiding, no focal reducer, just straight through prime focus, my 8-inch Meade SCT, and a Sony mirrorless camera that's full. It's one of the first of the series they came out with. But you can see that even with equipment like that, and just a short period of time, about 21 minutes, you can actually have some fun coming up with some halfway decent images. Now, we're going to post them in a magazine for sure, but for friends and family, they'll go, ooh, next one. So this one was done with a program everyone's familiar with here, should be, that does any imaging, DSS, or Deep Sky Stacker. This is the new version, the 64-bit version, that unfortunately they still haven't done the one for the Mac yet, but I've got Windows sitting on my Mac, and that's how I did all of these. I have a program called the Parallels Desktop that lets me run it concurrently. And so all of it was done this way. So it was kind of fun being able to work on a 27-inch monitor instead of these tiny 15-inch screens. And you can see a little bit more detail here, although Brian said the one he liked the best was from Sequitur. And of course, everyone has their own ideas. One of the things you can see down here, and of course, resolution is an issue. That's actually a double star right there. And you get a better, bigger scope with better resolution, it'll separate them a little better. Okay, next one. This one here is relatively new. It's called Open Sky Stacker. It's basically a baby version of Deep Sky Stacker. It has some of the same features where you go in and see how many stars are available for it to use for aligning and so forth. And it's once you figure it out, which doesn't take long, it's very, very simple compared to DSS or Sequitur or anything else. And it was fast. I think this one even tells you it took like 20 seconds. Sequitur took about a minute and a half maximum. And DSS, even though it's supposed to be faster, was 2 hours. Same equipment, but that's DSS for you. They just load a lot of stuff in there. But if you have a good computer, DSS, the new version is supposed to be significantly faster, because that 2 hours would have been half the night if I was using the old version. So those are the ones that I just took care of with those free programs, a lot of great programs. And except for all of the post-processing, there's a lot of great free programs out there. So when you're observing, when you're imaging, a lot of good stuff out there.
Just, Fred,
yes,
just real quick, I didn't notice it on the others, but on LSS, what's the purple fringe on the outer? Because I didn't notice that in the other. Is
that's part of, unfortunately, the different programs brought in a certain amount of what we would look at to look like light pollution, but it wasn't. It was just the colored tins that was thrown in there. And I was able to process a lot out in the others. But this one here, if I try to continue to process the rest of the reds out, you'd lose the colors in the middle of it. If I wanted to, which I'll add some more data later on, I could always crop the edges off and all of that work about it.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of curious. That stood out to me. The others didn't have that.
Because each program, as you know, has a different way of handling things and may throw in a slight colored tinge, and you got to work with that tinge later on.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Fred,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your Apple processor.
I have, it's an old one, so late 2009. It has an i7 core, and it has a 2.3 gig speed processor. Right now, it only has 8 gig of RAM. I'm getting ready to have it doubled here pretty soon.
And is that a mechanical drive or a solid state?
That's a solid state drive. Because it didn't come that way, but that's the way I had it modified before I took it home. And, you know, because I got so spoiled by the laptop we have, which came that way. And it's nice to have that kind of speed with a solid state drive. Of course, this is the computer guy here. He has his own shop, so that's why he's asking that question. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Great job, Steve. Thanks, appreciate it.
Is there anybody else that has any observing reports?
It's not really an observing report, but Lily, I think, was coloring during presentation, and she wants to show people what it was, so. It was a soccer. Go on, here. We'll let the chairs go on. Go ahead, do it this time.
Jason,
Gray matter.
Jason,
Yeah.
what kind of software did you use?
Crayola.
Crayola? 2.0?
Go ahead, stand up and show. Okay. Oh, you want to walk up in front? Go ahead. Go ahead. We could use a dose of cuteness.
Okay, super fast.
Yep.
Go.
I thought she said she was trying.
Did she just stack the pages, or did she just stack the software?
She was using her own software.
All right, show everybody your photo. You're on.
Hold it up.
Tell us a little about it, Lily. Lily, go ahead. Tell us about it.
What is it? What is it?
I kind of know that I'm a little crazy of those stars for what are kind of little patterns.
Very nice.
Good job.
Does anybody else have any other observing reports? The only thing that I've been observing is clouds. So
We all know who to blame.
well, that's what I wanted to bring up. Is I think we need a club policy that you cannot take delivery of any telescope during the new moon, right around the new moon on either side. Don't you think that that's
Maybe in
correct,
excess
Bruce?
of like 20 inches.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about. I'm denying all knowledge.
All right, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break, so we'll be back at 19:35.
This is the
Okay. Now that we're gonna get started again, just a reminder about the attendance sheet in the back, and the visitor cards. If you are looking for a CSAS name badge, Walter Warren is right up here, and I see that there's a whole bunch on this table here if you need if you had one made. If you need one, talk to Walter and he'll get your name on the list, so he'll bring one to you at the next meeting. So, without further ado, Dave Warner, our outreach coordinator, is coming up here and going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the night sky in the next couple of months.
All right, and as you said, we have RMSS coming up. Hopefully you're all signed up for that. We'll all see you out there. So this is actually going to talk a little bit too about what we're going to see at RMSS, though I don't focus so much on that because there's so much to see at RMSS. You absolutely got to go. If you haven't signed up already, get signed up for that. So here's what's up for June and July 2018. Let's get right to it. I've been doing this whole year about what the different full moons are. On May 29th is our full moon. It's known by some people as the flower moon because it's like the third moon of the spring, or the frog croaking moon is what I get from the Royal Astronomical Society. So pretty cool stuff. So those are always fun to see what those different full moon names are. Sorry, I'm right in front of the camera, right? May 31st, we got a conjunction of the moon in Saturn. So go check that out. What is there to see in June? We have the Moon-Mars conjunction. I did anything that was less than around 3 degrees or so. Different books that I refer to or websites would be different by half a degree or so, but I went with the degrees of separation out of intothesky.org, which used my coordinates for Colorado Springs. So June 3rd, we have a Moon-Mars conjunction around 3 degrees. June 16th, we have a Moon-Venus conjunction around 2 degrees. June 19th is the opposition of asteroid 4 Vesta. And June 20th, Venus passes through the Beehive cluster M44. And then we have the summer solstice on June 21st. We'll do one of those Garden of the Gods solstice hikes and hear more about archaeoastronomy, most likely, right? So it's cool stuff. And so we got a lot going on in June. This is just a piece of it. Next slide. You can't really see it on this. You can go and do a finder chart for where Vesta is at opposition. It might be on our challenges in Sky Safari for the RMSS observing challenges. Hopefully Vesta is included in that list. I'm not sure yet, but take a look at that. Next slide. Shouldn't be too hard to find. And then what is there also more to see in June? We have Saturn opposition June 27th. And the way that I remind people, opposition is that time when it'll be rising as sunset, so I can use it for outreach observation. So if people are excited about that, we're going to go see that ring planet and see that. There's also a Moon-Saturn conjunction on that same night, so you won't have any troubles finding it or seeing that, oh, the moon's coming up. Oh, there's Saturn's going to be right next to it. So you'll know that where Saturn is when you see the moon as well. The full moon in June is the hay moon, or the trees fully leaves moon. So that's what we have.
British.
Somebody made them up. Wasn't me, but somebody. The next slide will give us some key targets to observe in June. Obviously, this is a great time of the month. That's why we schedule RMSS during this time of year. We have M4, M13, M10, M62, M92, NGC 6388, all of those globular clusters out of the 160 some that we have orbiting around in our halo of our Milky Way galaxy. Lots of globular clusters to look at. Obviously, there's other things, other M's that are out there in the night sky for you to observe. these are the ones that were identified as best placed in the sky to see, but there's a lot more than this. I could have a list that goes on for pages. How about some open clusters? We have M6, IC 4665, M7, a couple other NGCs that are open clusters, and of course, as I mentioned, that asteroid for Vesta. To give just a quick thing, the Sky and Telescope that was for June, I'm going to be taking with me to RMSS because, man, they had a ton of things to be looking at in the night sky for the month of June, and including Vesta's. Find your charts are in there. So if you don't have that, you can find me at RMSS. I'll have that. We can go look at those objects. So I'm sure I'll be looking at more than one of these. So that's what we have for June. Let's go to July and see what we have. Not so many different objects to look at in July as far as the big things. We have Pluto at opposition. Good time to go look for that when we're down in dark skies. July 15th, the Moon-Venus conjunction's right around 1 degree. And then July 19th, we have another asteroid that's at opposition. This one's asteroid 88 Thisbe. And I'll find your chart, same thing for that one on this. And then July 24th is another Moon-Saturn conjunction around 1.5 degrees. So next slide.
You just wanted to say the word Thisbe, didn't you?
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Usually I say these wrong, so that's good to know. I said one right for once. So that's next slide.
But it's a fun word.
Those are ones that I want to target to try to go and actually go look at where that asteroid is, and then go look at it later and mark its movement across the sky to see that that's an asteroid moving across the background of stars. Next slide. I think there's just this. I think this is my last slide. These are the key targets to observe in July with M22 as a globular cluster, IC 4756 with an open cluster, M55 a globular, and that asteroid 88 Thisbe. So one of my things I'm going to do at RMSS is I like to look for how many galaxies that I can identify in one eyepiece view. So how many of those can you do? I did like 6 or 8 through a 9¼ inch SCT one year, and that was like my first year at RMSS, so I was really excited about that. So see what you can do. See what you can see in the night sky in June and July, and that's my presentation for this.
Okay, next up, we're going to have Hal Bidlack come up here and talk about an event that's going on down in Starry Meadows in August.
Yeah, for those of you who joined me last year, I'm a new guy. And real quick on outreach, the Looking Up radio segment that I do on KRCC, and Bruce does 1 a month, and I do 3. So I do much more work than he does. But we are now well into year 3. And there is discussion of trying to actually syndicate it nationally, so it's kind of exciting. So that airs now on Mondays at 9 a.m. and I think it's 8 p.m. Okay, and it's actually a downloadable iTunes podcast. So yeah. So I just want to let you know, in August, the 10th and 11th, it is this New Moon weekend. We're going to, again, for the second time, and we did it 2 years ago, have a thing called the College of Curiosity as our guest down there. Good friend of mine named Jeff Wag runs this thing. It's a great, go to collegecuriosity.org. He started a website and an organization about doing interesting things and going interesting places. So he's done trips all around the world. 2 years ago, he did a trip to Starry Meadows, and we're coming back again on that weekend. And I want to let you know because it'll have a relatively minor impact on you guys. It is the second biggest moneymaker that CSAS does because it gives the club $1,000 for it. He also pays for a couple extra porta potties that weekend, so if you're coming down anyway, you're there. He basically invites, he'll have somewhere probably between 25 and 35 people from around the country, and actually some international people, ranging from really expert astronomers to people who don't know which end of the telescope to look at, coming for that Friday and Saturday. Some will be camping on site, some will be staying in Walsenburg, but there are guests. The hosts are myself and Jeff. Then we have Bruce giving an archaeoastronomy talk. Bob, I don't know if I told you yet, you're going to get your talk again on how to Bob talks about how to do a telescope. And so if you're at Starry Meadows that weekend, it's also the Perseid. So I figure that it's Perseid peaking on New Moon weekend. My guess is Last time, 2 years ago, we had, I think, 2 extra people that were down there that weekend. I'm guessing there'll be more. We will be using the 3 to 4, maybe 5. We will be using the building. Jeff will be having meals for our folks. We'll be feeding other people. But he's got some day trips and other things going on. So if you're coming down, I ask your patience. If you'd rather not be involved with those people, then maybe set up a little farther away from the core area right there, because they'll probably come and say, can I look through your telescope? But they're gonna be nice people and they're paying for the privilege. So I'll just, kind of heads up, we'll probably do this every year. It was really, really popular in Jeff's organization. The only reason we didn't do it last year was because of the eclipse. But
And
it's
horribly profitable.
Say again?
And incredibly profitable.
Incredibly profitable for the club. And so it works out very nicely. And they're, nice people. It's, mean people don't want to come in the middle of a field in Colorado and look at the sky at night, generally speaking.
We don't want them to.
That's right. And we don't want them. So if there are any questions, let me know. But otherwise, again, you're totally welcome, of course, as club members, anytime to come down. But just know that if you come that weekend, there are organized events. If you want to sit through yet another archaeastronomy talk, you can. If you want to talk to Bob's talk, that's great too. Bruce will have his new telescope. If you wonder why it's so damn cloudy, it's because he bought a 22-inch telescope. And then he got this idiot to come over and look at the heavy stuff, and my back still hurts. But we'll have a 22,
And I'm the idiot.
a 20, and my 12.
Quick things for now. How does Jeff spell his last name?
WAGG.
Okay.
Jeff Wagg.
And
collegeofcuriosity.org if you want to get some information about 10 things he does. He also does mystery objects to try to figure out what's going on. So that's it. Coming in August to a field near you.
So Stephen, can you go to the calendar in August?
I didn't put it on there, I think, or did I? Maybe I did. You did? Okay.
What we have to do is we have to figure out a little dilemma that we have here. And that has to do with the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and it has to do with that Saturday. That we have a conflict with a club scheduled event and then this. So Dave, would you like to?
Well, we require no club support at all for us, other than the people have already stolen.
Yeah, but what we want to do is ask the club's inputs on that for that Saturday. Do we want to do a club event down at Starry Meadows rather than committing our people and splitting them 2 different directions to support events at both places? Because originally, the original plan was to do the Perseids meteor shower at Starry Meadows, and the club initially said, oh no, we shouldn't do that because it's too far away and it's too hot and so on and so forth. So I scheduled something closer by, and so I like feedback on, should we cancel it, or are we going to be able to commit and support both events? So that's really the feedback that we like to get, because I don't have any problem with just canceling the public star party, and we've got the Garden of the Gods public star party the following week. We're already doing a public star party. So
So again, other than Bruce and Bob that I stole.
And Hal. I mean, Bruce, Bob,
What
and
public star party?
the public star party is on the 11th of August there.
In Rome.
Yeah, Rome.
Oh, that's open to the public.
That is a public star party,
Okay.
yes. And the thing is, we have Mars opposition just passed, close approach, as well as the Perseid meteor shower. So I was looking at doing that. But if I don't want to double up on events where we're pulling people different directions. So
For like the raw, what's expected. Right, yeah.
as far as people goes, it depends on, again, what the publicity. If we do our event at Starry Meadows, it would be just our public, just us, just the club members, that it was like, hey, you want to go down and do the meteor shower down there and all the planets and everything, go down to Starry Meadows. We're not going to have a public star party up in town for that. We'll do that at Garden of the Gods the month before and here in August.
Dave, Do you want to do a quick show of hands of anyone present who's willing to commit to going to Rama? And if we don't really have enough, just not worry about it then?
Yeah, who'd commit to going to Rama to do a public event? Yeah, Rama. There we go. Let's cancel it.
Who would be thinking about going to Starry Meadows? Okay.
Okay.
And again, you're all welcome to, go to the talks and things, and if you don't want the
So let's
curiosity
do
there,
that.
just, you can
We'll
shoot them
cancel
away.
that off of there and we'll we'll focus our energies on public star parties at Garden of the Gods in July, which I'll talk about in a minute, and August. Thank you.
Okay, Rob, resolved. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the different committee reports or special interest groups. The first one that I would like to bring up is Brian Gibson. He hosts our astrophotography special interest group. So Brian, if you would say a couple words.
Yeah. Last month, we had a interesting discussion on guiding, setting up a telescope to do some guiding. This coming week, we meet the week following tonight, so next Tuesday at my home, and if you need to get some information on that, please give me your email and your name, and I can add you to the mailing list. We're having a discussion, I think it was quite interesting. It's how to remotely control your telescope. Now, generally, probably a majority of it will be dealing with people that are just starting to work into doing that. Everything from, if you're out there in the winter and you're cold, and especially 2, 3 in the morning, you want to operate your telescope. Can you go sit in your car and actually operate it and get it nice and warm? I'm kind of like that now in cold days. Now I'm not as hardy as I used to be. So it's from everything from that to other simple setups of running it from your home to more sophisticated things, setting up an observatory and some of the challenges on that. So it should be a real interesting discussion. If any of you have done remote operations of telescopes, whether very simple or complicated, please come and bring your ideas and share those. It should be an interesting time. We won't be meeting in official meeting in June because of RMSS. However, if there's enough interest while we're down there, we may post up on a board in there somewhere a meeting maybe during a lunch for those that are interested in doing something, getting around and sharing or following through and we'll discuss that more this coming week, but at RMSS. So we'd love to see you there. And again, if you need information of time, when, where, and more detail of contact, just get me your email address and your name. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up, what I'd like to do is last month's meeting, we formed the long-term planning committee for our club, and Bruce, I have asked Bruce to lead that committee. And Bruce, would you like to give the club an update on what you?
Oh, okay. I'm getting up here talking way too much. For those folks who are interested, part of the aspects of what we've been rolling into is this club needs vision. We need to understand where we want to go and understand who we are. And one of the first aspects of that is going to be looking at establishing a mission statement, a vision statement, goals of where we want to be. Some of these are going to be incredibly long range. Some of these are going to be, what are we doing? Most of this is focused around the effort with the Air Force Academy telescope. So the committee's looking at that as a focal point around we build so we understand. Let that be a stage in the middle, but not the core. There may be many other things that this club will do, but we need to establish where are we going to go in the future. Is this going to be one of many telescopes? Maybe some clubs have multiple sites and they do things. But is this telescope going to shift the way we look at how we do outreach? Is this, there are so many things to consider with this. So we want to try to capture that right now. We're meeting about once a month. We're going to try to meet the 2 weeks after the RMSS committee meets. You can look at us on the websites. Next one is scheduled for 2 June, I think.
Yeah.
2 June. Panera Bread over off Powers. Please come with some ideas. Let's talk about vision. Let's talk about this. Understand that we're going to be looking not at the weeds. I don't care about the grass. I am caring about the lawn and the bigger picture. We've got to be really look majorly strategic, very long range. What else?
I think that's good.
Okay, I'll sit down now.
Question?
Oh, yes.
Hey, for those of us who are unable to meet all the meetings, make all the meetings, you mentioned the Air Force Academy telescope. What's going on with that? I remember there was a rumor, so are you getting the telescope?
Oh, you missed the last meeting where we currently what we are at is we are a letter of intent with the U.S. Air Force working through their contracting office. The telescope will be put in storage at the Air Force expense for up to a year until we can determine a path forward. There's probably, it won't be my committee, it'll have to be a separate committee dedicated to the effort with that telescope, but supported by the board, then my committee, and then the Air Force, the Air Force Telescope Committee about how we're going to commit, how we're going to get that moving forward and so forth like that. Some of the aspects of what we're looking at is not only is the club got to reach out if we're going to support that telescope, we've got to talk about community because this telescope is a community asset. So Front Range, can we bring in a board of advisors from county commissioner, from, I don't know, senator? For some reason I look over him. I don't know. We've got to try to bring this all together. So we've got to start somewhere. That's where this committee is getting. We're starting with basics and so forth like that.
So you have to physically move it from the Air Force Academy, right?
You're going into grass. I'm discussing the lawn. So don't go to details that we cannot determine at this point in time.
Okay, I'm just saying, with all the years that telescope was open to the public, and then after 9/11, basically access to it shut down because you couldn't get people there in a timely fashion to be able to utilize it better. So when you mentioned community, I said, well, it's got to move. It can't stay on campus, or it has to stay outside their primary security zone to be able to use it.
That's part of the consideration is we take possession and we have it located to a spot that is mutually agreeable, mutually supportable, O&M costs, timing. That's a lot of detail, but the key right now is they want to give it to us so it can again go back to the public.
Right.
Which is again, is that our mission goal? Is that our statement? Is that where we want to go with this club? That make sense?
Oh, yeah. I just to let you know too, you probably had the conversations with Misty about Pikes Peak Observatory. Because in every board meeting they talk about this club and how this club could potentially support Pikes Peak Observatory.
Yes, and we've only seen them sparingly versus, how about we, get some of our members dragged over to that long-range committee. I'd love to attend some of their stuff to help support, but they've also got to be here making presence to do that too. We can't be talking in separate areas.
We've told more.
Oh, yeah, okay. That is.
I'm Norm Blood.
Oh.
That's his door. That's what
I'm just studying Bruce's shirt. So.
Yeah. It's not talking out of turn, but the whole Pikes Peak Observatory effort is hinged on getting the use permit to be on the summit. And that process is starting again. Unfortunately, it had to stop momentarily so the Summit House could get approved, because there was a lot of concern that having the observatory and the Summit House somehow tied together and slow it all up. So the organization pulled back just slightly. That made the Summit House go through like a flash, and now they're working on a fast track with the Forest Service. So there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of dominoes that have to fall into place. But every time I hear one of those board members at NIST, whatever, keeps saying, the club's going to support us, and I go, where do you have that written down? Because I look around this room and the first thing I see is all of you need to get physicals to make sure you can work at 14,000 feet for an 8-hour period.
Well, that's the funny thing. Their commitment was a verbal contract, which is always worth the paper it's printed on.
Right.
So, yeah, that's again, we need to get in that commitment. This telescope with that committee, is a location up there good? Probably not for that relic, but there's a lot of details, like I said. So right now, my job is here. Details will come out when we evolve to the next person who wants to take up that committee, see him?
Thank you for the background.
Okay.
In regards to that, I do have a quick update regarding the contractual phase of this. I spoke with Devin Delarose the other day, and they have the Air Force Academy has accepted our letter of intent. They are then coming back to us with a contract that I've sent board members. We're working through that phase right now with that particular contract. We already have warehouse approval to store that telescope, and it is not for a 1-year period. It is longer than that. Some stuff that's been in that warehouse has been there 5 years. So there's no time constraint there. The issue that we're working through right now with Devin is there's a clause in that contract that says that you have 12 months. There's that 12-month, it's like a sentence or two paragraph that says that you can, this is the time frame. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get that commitment phase where we actually make a commitment when we actually go pick up that telescope. So it doesn't start from the time of the signing of the agreement, but the time that we actually pick it up. So it saves us a lot of hassle. So we're working through that phase right now. Devin seemed to think that this contract would be finalized, that we all can look at in 3 weeks or so. So that's kind of where we are. Everything's good news so far with that, so it's pretty exciting stuff. Anyways, next up, Starry Meadows properties.
Starry Meadows Workday. Thank you all the volunteers that were out there. It was fantastic. We cleared out the back areas and the east side, I believe, for what?
The Vixie tree.
The Vixie tree, yes.
You understand.
And we had access to an industrial chipper, so I hear we had fun too.
Fun as defined in scars.
Have all our fingers.
That's right. I took a slow-mo video of it too, which was kind of interesting. I'll show it later. And chainsaws, so. The Starry Meadows building, I hear is so clean now, you can be off the floor.
I think we have those on the Facebook page. I'm going to bring those up and show people the pictures on the Facebook page.
Some can eat off the floor, others do that at fortitude. Yeah, and there was we've got walls and a roof on our observatory out there now. Thank you for everybody who contributed to that. Especially the part where we lifted the dome up, and it would be 6 or 8 people to do that. Oh, there we go. That was heavy. So it still needs to have some weather sealing. You can see holes, from the picture. And it needs the motor attached and a few minor things, but some screws here. But it's protected from the elements for the most, other than the holes that I mentioned. So some minor work, but it looks like a dome now, and that's fantastic. Let's see. We also met with an electrician and set a grill on fire. So I'm expecting this. Actually, I expect the estimate today.
You set the grill on fire.
It set itself on fire. Whoever was using it last, we did not clean it. I got distracted with the electrician, and then we started catching on fire. Anyway.
Well done burgers.
Yeah. So
but they were cooked well.
The meat was good, and in the end, and we had real cheese. So hopefully the electrician estimate will come in soon. Like I said, it was supposed to be today, but and I'll get that and work with that, combine everything, and you'll hear about it eventually. And I still have no estimate on the road improvements that we're supposed to get. So there may be a little bill on that. But if you've been out there, the roads have been improving and they will improve more. So when it rains and.
Boulevard is gone.
Yes.
Let's see.
Oh, we need some grounding on so we don't, lose everything to lightning. So in there, we've got a 14-inch, or we will have a 14-inch telescope in there. So we got to come up with some rules on how to use it, as well as connect the thing. Whether it's a checkout system or first come, first serve, little stuff like that. But I think that'll get resolved, not before RMSS, but soon enough. So I think that's it.
You said you had grounding issues?
We don't know that we have grounding issues, but we do need to put in a grounding rod. So, put all that equipment in there. It turns out we have lots of iron rods that are already on site, and so I think it won't be too hard, actually. Yeah.
It's awesome. Go ahead.
Okay, one thing, since they did mention the scope, is that a while back when I got all of my equipment, and a long story on how that happened, but the same individual that had the stuff that I got, that Brian got, is a Vance-like robo-focuser, and I tested it, and it does work, and that can go on the 14-inch scope.
Where's it located? You have it right now?
I have it in my house.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Last but not least, the most exciting part of the evening, I think, maybe Rocky Mountain Star Station.
It's my turn, it sounds like. We are about 5 days away from the end of online registration. It ends at, I guess, midnight Sunday night, the 27th. Currently, as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, we have 277 people signed up. That's very good. David, who runs our children's activities, just so you know, we have 10 teenagers attending and 24 children under the age of 13. Awesome. So you'll have a crowd of little ones that'll keep you occupied, I know.
How many children under the age of 50?
So we don't have quite, but pretty much everyone else, yeah. Hopefully you're all getting the email updates we're sending out.
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to keep you informed on how things are going. I think everyone here knows what I'm talking about, right? Rocky Mountain Star Stare, the big star party we put on at our property in Gardner. And so that's what this is all about, 13th through the 17th. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday are the main days. Sunday is, pack up and at home, typically, for most people. Just so you know, also, the weekend before, on the 11th, Sunday the 11th, I'm going to be down there, and myself and Jason, we're going to be mowing the fields, getting mowed just before the event. So if you're planning on going down early, Sunday could be a dusty day. Just know that, because we'll be bush hogging and mowing and doing the final cleanup down there on site. So I want to make that known too. Finally, as you know, we have, when you register, you can check off as being a volunteer. And what that means is, if you want to volunteer a couple hours while you're down there to help out, that helps us out a lot. I have 4 different tasks that we need help with for. One is staffing the store, and that's pretty much covered at this point. Another one is children's activities, helping David, and we've got three people so far signed up for that. We could probably use a few more. And I have specific, and that's what I'm holding in my hand here. This is the list of tasks and days and times and who's signed up. So I did send out emails to the people that did say they're willing to be volunteers, asking, and I've gotten quite a bit of feedback, but I still have gaps and openings. So I'm still looking for people to help out on some days to do what I'm calling entry duty. So this is something new. We're going to set up a canopy or something in a chair where people drive in. So when they come in, you can say, hey, are you here for RMSS? Yes, you are. You can go and check in down here, things like that. Give people a little assistance as they arrive. The other one I'm looking for also are people who will commit to a couple hours a day, helping out inside the event center, keeping it organized, making sure it's prepared for the various events that are coming up during the day, things like that. So I've got people, I've only got a couple of people signed up in that area, but I still need help there. So I'm gonna put these sign-up sheets over here on the table where they were. If you didn't sign up to volunteer, that's fine, but if you did, or if you want to and you didn't think this checked out off the box, we're still looking for volunteers to help out. So that kind of wraps up, I think, what I have to say. Everything is pretty much on schedule where we are where we need to be as far as, we've got a bunch of vendors lined up. We've got our food vendor, that's going to be on site. We've got our speakers lined up. We have, I know the door prizes are rolling in, all that. We've purchased our raffle prize. So everything is looking good at this time. Any questions, anybody? Thank you.
What's the weather going to be?
It's going to be spectacular.
Dark.
We guarantee it.
Mostly dark, turning to widely scattered light and order.
There will be weather. We're not done. Last but not least, Dave is going to come back up here and discuss outreach.
Get her done. Okay, first of all, Matt, I need you to come up here because I've got a presentation here for the club. This is coming from NASA, the Night Sky Network, actually, the Joint Propulsion Laboratory. On their Astronomical Society of the Pacific letterhead, it reads, to Colorado Springs Astronomical Society, your work in 2017 preparing your community for the eclipse was truly outstanding, and NASA and the Astronomical Society of the Pacific honor your dedication to astronomy outreach. Thank you for your continued membership in the Night Sky Network. Please let your membership know that we appreciate their efforts too. They appreciate your efforts. The total eclipse inspired awe in so many across the country. It's estimated that 85% of U.S. adults witnessed it live, either by looking up with solar viewing glasses or watching it online. Your astronomy club and many others helped get the word out in so many ways, from members appearing on local news to holding events, distributing glasses to schools and beyond. NSN clubs alone distributed more than 250,000 glasses in their communities. The NSN website is accessed by tens of thousands of visitors each month. Be sure to put your upcoming events on the calendar. That's what I do, so visitors find them. We look forward to working with you for many years to come. So this is the certificate of appreciation that is being presented to the club.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for scheduling all that last year.
Yeah, that's great. There was one other one that I want to announce too. I left it on my printer. You can look it up in the Google search, Florissant Fossil Beds Volunteer Award. Just shortly after the Florissant Fossil Beds folks came and talked to us at our meeting last month, Michelle sent me an email like 1 o'clock in the morning, all excited. Hey, we just found out that we won the national level volunteer award, and it's because of you guys at Colorado Springs Astronomical Society coming doing these Star Party events, that our volunteer program is so successful and reached so many people. And thank you oh so much. We're going to get the formal award in Washington, D.C. sometime in the future, to be determined, but they mentioned us specifically in their citation of award that they got this award because of the contributions of the Colorado Springs Astronomical Society as a part. There's others, volunteers that.
Because they beat out in larger parks.
They beat up the Lodge, yeah, Yosemite, Yellowstone, all the other. This is against everybody. They won for the volunteers the national award. So congratulations to them. We continue to work with them and are excited to continue to do so. And it is just keep in mind that your volunteer support directly affects and supports what they do up at the club. Makes it even more so important.
One other item that's important about that award, along with the fluorescent, they are making an effort towards getting a dark sky park designation. There's currently an effort going on with several of the members of the Friends of the Fossil Beds, along with our club. We're going to be working packages and getting them that designation, which will be very, very big for them. Welcome to astrotourism.
All right, so we'll get on to the future stuff. So that's really great. We continue to do great things. We got great volunteers. Fluorescent Fossil Beds last couple of Friday nights ago, we were up there. We probably had 14 outreach volunteers up there. So really appreciate the numbers of people that are coming out and supporting outreach in all the different aspects of what we did. We were at, and Matt said he was only looking at clouds. Well, we had good skies at Ellicott Middle School a couple of nights ago, so we did that. And we had some really smart fifth graders that asked lots of really great questions, and all their families and things like that. So it's been great. We'll continue to do great things. The next one coming up is the Garden of the Gods Star Party. It's actually tomorrow night. It's coming up on us fast. Looks like partly cloudy skies. Hopefully we'll get some good skies to at least see Venus, and the moon, and Jupiter, and maybe some stars. We'll see what we can see from there. But if you can support tomorrow night at Garden of the Gods, set up around 8 o'clock with a 8:30 to 10 o'clock run time. If you could support that tomorrow night, that would be great. Show the public what we have to see.
How many people are you anticipating being there?
It really varies in numbers. It can be anywhere from 350 people to 1,000. So if you're able to support, we can use all the support we can get with whether that's just handing out flyers or having people look through your telescopes or talking to the people about what they can do and looking at the night sky with a pair of binoculars or their naked eye, whatever it is. Come out and support, because we set up in the RV bus parking lot area of the visitor center during that period of time. You can park your car right next to where you're going to have your telescope. So take pictures, hand out flyers, bring a telescope, whatever it is that you can do. If you can support, really could use the help for those Garden of the Gods Star parties, because we can, with social media, get a lot of people at those events. Remains to be seen. The following week, we have the full moon astronomy hike at, that's also a Garden of the Gods. That's already full up, booked. Bruce is going to be taking people on a walk, as well as Al. I think both of those hikes are booked up for that.
Yes.
40 people.
But
total.
you will need telescopes. Are you supporting?
But we do need telescopes. We're going to be in the north parking lot, which is that parking lot to walk in by Kissing Camels area. We can set up our telescopes right there on that sidewalk, right next to our cars. Not going to have to do like we did last time, where we took them down and we're out, us old guys. Right now we'll set up right next in that parking lot, right next to our scope, so we can see Venus and the moon and maybe Jupiter, depending on the time of night when the people come by, if they don't get lost, right? So, but a great event. Come support. I only need 2 or 3 telescopes for that, and of course more people are welcome. And then I've got the Broadmoor private star party handled with people. I don't need to talk. That's one of the events that we get donations to the club of about $500. So those are important to us in the interest of our club, bringing in revenue. But beyond that, next, let's take a look at June real quick. I'm going to try to hit June and July, since I've got to get both months covered. Not a lot on here because, well, not a lot, but a lot. In that we've got the solar. We got a Fountain Creek Nature Center night sky program. I'll give that talk, and then we'll have telescopes outside. I'll let people know about that on June 8th coming up, as well as then we get really busy getting ready for going into RMSS. Roger, for the solar observing at Garden of the Gods, Roger Kennedy and his wife Linda are going to be here. They were the same people that were here last year and did this same thing that we did Garden of the Gods, and then go down to RMSS, and they're at RMSS. They can handle everything by themselves, but if you want to show up with a telescope, you want to show up with a solar daytime activity to do while they're there, you're more than welcome to during any of that time frame. I'm going to be supporting packet stuffing with RMSS committee on the 9th, then going over there afterwards, hopefully, and then on the 10th and the 11th, I'll be supporting as well, I think, before I go out to RMSS to work that event. So, you know, you can support whatever you can support is great. If you can't, that's okay too. We'll be all right there. And then, of course, RMSS I've talked about before, as well as Tom. We hope to see you out there. After we get back, I actually don't have it on the schedule. The 21st is a solstice, right? So we'll have another astronomy hike at Garden of the Gods on the 21st of August after we come back. And then we'll have our public start party at Fountain Creek on the 23rd. Let's go real quick to July then, and that gets us to finish it up on the 3rd of July. We have the Green Box Arts Festival. I'll send emails and post in the forums more about these. The Green Box Arts Festival, that's up at Green Mountain Falls. We go up there, nice, kind of cool evening when it's hot summer down in town, and we set up our telescopes for the artsy folks to come by and look through their telescopes and see the cool stuff they can see. Just a couple hours. We make money on that event as well, so it's a money maker for us. Then we have a Bears Creek Middle School camp on the 11th, and I don't know much more about that one. We're back to Florissant Fossil Beds for our Dark Skies on the 13th, and then the public start party on the 20th back at Palmer Park, which now we will be in the hours of permit, so we won't have issues with the police coming in asking why we're there. So, yeah. But that's what we have on the schedule right now. Probably not a lot more going to get added to the schedule because this is a pretty full up schedule for the outreach and the outreach team. Having the volunteers to do outreach does help us do more and reach more people in the public. It's been noted in the community. We continue to do that development. They like what we're doing. We'll do more of it. So thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Jason, I thought of one other thing I want to ask. Is there anybody in the club here that is a heavy equipment operator? Oh, yeah. You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's got wheels, it's something like.
Would you talk to Jason after the meeting, please?
It's got a really big one.
Yeah, no problem. Other than that, does anybody else have anything else?
Interesting story I heard.
Oh, go ahead.
They didn't even hear about this. It falls along with the what's up thing. There's a new NEO that is so new that almost nobody knows about it. The story that I read is that what led to this is there was an astronaut recently on the ISS. He went for his walk, took his GoPro, and as he was most of the way through the walk, realized he did not put the SD card in his GoPro. So you can imagine how the rest of the team guided him. What they decided to do was to make him the NEO, and they untethered him.
All right, does anybody have anything else? Lastly, the attendance sheet, please, if you haven't signed it, sign it on your way out the door. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, one other thing, well, do we have any electricians here? While we're just looking for professions here.
What do you have any
Actual electricians?
We technically have an electrical engineer in the back.
You're an electrician. All right, thank you very much. It's just somewhere.
And then one thing we don't want to forget about is the after the meeting, which I'm assuming is still going on. Okay, that is at the Village Inn, right down at the highway. And yeah, I've already mentioned it. Okay. So, anyways, that's all I have. Thanks for coming.